Vikings versus Texans, GMG pregame show. Gallahorn. The gang is back, and we're here to talk Week 4 Vikings versus the Texans down in NRG Stadium in Houston. The Vikings will be attending, along with the biggest crowd in the NFL so far. They expect over 10,000 people at the stadium. I also expect the roof to be open, being the case. It is a battle of 0-3 teams. Neither team has started out the way they wanted to, and both teams have played some pretty good teams to start off with. But first, before we get into it, I'd like to welcome back the one, the only, Mr. Ted Glover.
How you guys doing?
Hell yeah! Ted Glover.
What's going on, boys?
Dude, how you doing?
If I was any better, I'd be against the law. Let's light this candle.
All right. I'm back home, baby. Hey, I know two things. We got Ted Glover here today. We're going to get some straight talk, some straight-ass talk. And secondly, there's no rules. I don't have to follow any rules today. Because with Ted's here, there's no rules.
Let's go.
All right. Also, back the one, the only, the base ripper, Mr. Drewster.
What's up, people? No one gives a shit what I'm doing. Introduce Ryno. Let's roll. Let's
And
light the candle.
we also have Ryno, the one, the only, the drone master of North Dakota. Ryno.
He is the drone master, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Sneaky fucking.
I'll take the title, but I don't know about that.
Didn't you have an accident last week with one of your drones?
Yeah. We did a death spiral from about 400 feet, and I spent an hour walking in a cornfield looking to pick up pieces, and not much left. We'll put it that way.
I did that once in a helicopter. No, I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't doubt it. You guys do train on auto rotation.
Yeah, at Rucker, but yeah, that's the only time I did.
Oh, okay.
It actually to the ground
Mm-hmm.
in the Huey. Didn't actually do them to the ground in Chinooks or 53s.
Oh,
Meow, meow.
that'd be scary. Anyways, so we're going down to Houston. We're playing the Houston Texans, who we know has Deshaun Watson as their quarterback, who is one of the most exciting quarterbacks in the league. The guy has legs. He can run. He can move. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's accurate. The question is, does he have everything around him needed to succeed? Sound like somebody we know. That's the question. Drew, what sort of numbers do you have for us this week?
Ted Glover's back here, man. That is fantastic. Well, we'll say one thing. Watson's been sacked 13 times, which is a lot for this far along in the season.
It sounds like they got our offensive line.
They're currently 19th in the passing game, and they're basically 28th overall, so they're nothing special, in terms of what he's doing and what they're doing. Numbers don't jump off the page at you. The numbers that do jump off are their big difference in defense is that they're the third best pass defense in football, but they're dead last in run defense. The Houston Texans give up 188 yards a game on the ground.
And Dalvin Cook had 181 last week.
So they're, being third in the NFL through the air and last in run defense. I hope we don't have to email Zoomer and tell him how to attack this game, because that's basically how you do it. I mean, Watson's always going to cause you trouble, but the numbers, when I crunch the numbers today, Texans are nothing special. And being 0-3, that's probably why. I'm kind of surprised. You know the Vikings only have 3 sacks all season?
Yeah, and Ngakoue has 2 of the 3, and then the third one was that Holton Hill pull-up that pushed Phillip Rivers out of bounds a half yard behind the line of scrimmage.
Was that a sack?
That was the third sack.
Wow.
That just seems awfully low, man, for what Viking teams usually pump out. I mean, 3 games, 3 sacks. That's part of your defensive problem right there is getting to the quarterback, and that shuts down the whole drive, shuts down the whole possession. But I don't want to go over the Viking numbers. We're pretty much last in everything, guys. I mean, the only thing we really stand out in is rushing offense. We're 8th in the NFL. But defense, the Vikings are 30th. They have 26th rush defense, 30th pass defense, and they are 31st in scoring defense, giving up 34 a game. They need to start playing.
Other than that, we're doing really well.
The defense is just – we're not going to win unless the defense somehow manages to start playing better. They're not going to win a game. They have to play better.
Unless the offense scores more than the other opposing or scores more than the other team.
Yeah, but when you look back at like
that's kind of how you win all your games, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But but it's the Denny Green formula. We'll go out and score 35 or better and not care about defense.
But the problem is when you have a quarterback that comes into the post-game press conference and says, "Well, we scored 30 points and ran up almost 400 yards. That should have been enough." That part of it. I mean, I'm not. I know we're moving ahead, not looking back, but that thing right there.
That was irritating.
That pissed me off more than anything else that's happened this season so far. Is that the quarterback should come on there. Okay, we played good until that last snap. That's on me. This is my offense. We got to do better. We got to help. It's a team game. We got to pick up when the other things are lacking. But we did this and it should be enough. No. Still annoyed about that.
One more number, and I'll throw it back and just listen for a while. The Vikings are second to last in turnover ratio. The Eagles are the only team worse than us.
Yeah, we're minus 5.
Eagles are a -7. The bottom line is, guys, if the Vikings are going to give up 440 points a game and 34 points, they're not going to win games.
Right. Well, Houston's right behind them at -4.
Yes,
so
they're not.
Or right
they're
ahead of them, behind them, however you want to look at that. Well, did you know in the last game there was 30 dropbacks for passes, right? And we had the beautiful, wonderful, and I'm curious on Ryno's thoughts on Justin Jefferson. But out of those 30 dropbacks, 18 of them, Kirk Cousins was pressured at a rate which equals 60% of his dropbacks. So, and it seemed like all of them happened, or the majority of them happened in that last drive, but,
Right. Well, a couple of things on that last drive. Yeah, I lay part of it on Cousins because, as Zimmer said, it was complete and utter chaos. But I lay a bigger chunk of it on Kubiak. I mean, we get a gift and are at our own 40-yard line with 1 and 41 freaking seconds to go, and we're playing like we're down by 5 with 27 seconds to go in the freaking game. We had time to run, throw some short sideline passes. We needed 20 to 25 yards to get into Bailey's field goal range to try to win the damn game.
Right.
And we're acting like we're down by 6 with 20 seconds to go. The play calling just baffled the crap out of me on that one.
Well, Mike Zimmer did change it the next day on Monday from chaos to disaster. He said people were doing...
That makes it all better right there.
Yeah, he said people were doing the right things. It's just that they were absolutely beaten. Bradbury got lifted up and driven back. Bradbury, it could be Bradbury looked like he snapped that ball early because nobody else moved. It just went bad.
Bradbury got blown up on the play before that, and I think he was a little gun shy.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ted.
If you're doing everything right, how do you screw up a center fumble like that? That ended up going to what, 3rd and 24, 4th and 24, whatever the hell it was?
It was bad.
How can you say that we were doing everything right? If that's how you do things right, they're going to go 0-16. Just saying.
Well,
Did he say
Trevor. Tank for Trevor.
Did Zimmer say that we're doing things right? Is that what he said?
well, I don't know if it was right. He said they were doing their correct assignments. It's just that they didn't execute well.
What?
He walked it back after he realized that he took a ball peen hammer to the glass at his cousin's ego and, made him feel bad. So he had to kind of walk it back a little bit.
Now, on the snap, the snap was an early snap.
Man.
So,
What's that?
Come on. What's going on with you in this team? I want to get a little synopsis from Mr. Ted Glover to kick us into gear.
I don't know if you guys remember. We talked after the draft or during the draft, sometime during the offseason. We said that the Vikings offense was going to have to carry the defense early on. Mm-hmm. Because you've got, 6-7 new starters on defense, mm-hmm. and it was going to take a while for them to figure out what was going on. I didn't think the defense would be this bad. I thought it would have regressed. I think anybody who's followed this team for more than a couple months would have figured that out and accepted it. But I don't think anybody saw this bad of a drop-off this fast. I mean, this went from a really good defense to literally one of the worst in the NFL in the span of 6 months, 7 months.
Yeah, the 6 injuries
brought in an
doesn't
extra
help.
Defensive consultant, though, so it should have been better.
the thing, and this is, I think what we're seeing is kind of the culmination of 2 or 3 years of mostly bad personnel decisions. You look at everything the Vikings have done since the end of, I would argue, 2017. And you can go back with the offensive line farther than that. I mean, the offensive line has just been this mysterious freaking ancient aliens, black hole, conspiracy theory, something. I don't know what. Going back farther than that.
Is such a thing even possible? Yes, it is.
But most personnel decisions the Vikings have made since the end of 2017 have been the wrong ones. Yeah. From signing Cousins, it doesn't matter. The trade of Diggs. This is what I don't get. If you're going to say, look, we're going to put a lot of young guys on defense, so we're going to need the offense to carry a lot of weight, and you trade arguably your best playmaker on offense, what are you saying to your defense? What are you saying to the fans? What are you saying to the rest of the team? And it's now with COVID-19 and all the off-season irregularities of not being able to do OTAs and mini camps, and you just had a late scaled-back training camp and no preseason games. You're seeing this inexperience, and you're seeing this bad roster for the most part. I mean, I hate to say it, but it is. You've got Hunter, Ngakoue, Eric Kendricks, and Harrison Smith. That's your defense. And right now, Danielle Hunter's out. And I bet he's going to be out a lot longer than 3 weeks. I'm just, with the way the Vikings are with injuries, I think it's worse than what they're saying right now, because it always is.
Rumor has it on Vikings Twitter, it's a ruptured disc.
Well, then, if that's the case, then he's done for the year.
He should be done for the year. Let it heal.
Yeah, because at this point, by the time even if he can come back, it's going to be week 10 or whatever, and we're 2-8 or whatever. What's the point at that point in time?
2-8? No, we'll just ran off 6 or 8 wins by then.
And the other thing.
Put down the line of being pale ale there, Dave.
Okay.
And the other thing is, going back to the roster, this is we knew the opponents the Vikings had. I mean, that was set. The actual week-to-week schedule wasn't set, but we knew the opponents, I'm pretty sure, well before, right at the end of the season. The Vikings knew they were facing Tom Brady, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers twice, Matt Stafford twice. Can't beat Mitch Trubisky if whatever. Just don't even get me started. And all the other quarterbacks, Russell Wilson. That's they got Deshaun Watson this week, and they went ahead anyways and made that decision to let all their 3 starting cornerbacks and Mac Alexander, Trey Waynes, and Xavier Rhodes walk. I could understand Trey Waynes. He was asking a lot of money, too rich for the Vikings' blood, but I still say they could have tried to keep Alexander and Rhodes. And we're seeing the effects of those decisions. Everybody says, well, yeah, those guys sucked. I'll tell you what, I would take Mac Alexander and Rhodes back in a heartbeat right now.
Rhodes
In a
won.
heartbeat.
Rhodes won AFC Defensive Player of the Week this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's ranked the #1 corner by
Real-
PFF.
Yeah.
Pretty obvious to me that secondaries coach Jerry Gray was the problem. Glad we fired him, got rid of him.
Yeah, and then
the secondary's so much better. Nice move there.
And
Great job.
how many longtime defensive assistant coaches left for whatever reason? I mean,
yeah, because
really the guy that stayed is Patterson, the defensive line coach, and now he's one of half a dozen assistant defensive coordinators.
And Jerry Gray went to the Packers.
Yep.
Did he really?
Yeah.
He's running that group over there now.
What a clown show.
Oh, we still got Adam Zimmer, though, too, so we're good on that.
But let's talk about Justin Jefferson, the basic replacement for Stephon Diggs. Justin Jefferson last week. And Ryno, I want your impression on that breakout game of his.
This is honestly, what I expected of Jefferson coming out of LSU, how he played last year. I mean, he had games like this last year, he was the #2 receiver on that team. Was it Chase or whatever? I forget his first name, but the kid that opted out for this year, he was their #1 guy. Jefferson was their #2, but he was having games like this left and right last year, and it's nice to see that it's transferred over to the pros. I mean, we were sitting there waiting week 1, week 2, where the hell is Justin Jefferson? And then week 3, he shows up and plays. I mean, he played better in one game than every other first-round wide receiver that Spielman has ever drafted combined over their careers, basically. When you look back at Patterson and Tree Stump and that kind of stuff, I mean, Jefferson had his coming out party this weekend, and hopefully at least it gives the opposing team somebody else to have to account for now besides Thielen. Unless we do like what we did the last game. I looked at the numbers on this. Jefferson had 9 targets. 7 of them were in the first half, none in the fourth quarter. Basically the last target that Jefferson had was that touchdown catch. After that, Kirk never looked at him again. I mean, wow. Fourth quarter, when we're trying to protect, when we're blowing a 12-point lead, and we look at the guy who's having one of the best days that a wide receiver in this team has had in years, and no, we're just gonna throw it at Thielen, forget everybody else. Oh shit, where's everybody? Here we go.
Well, I heard something interesting today. Justin Jefferson with his 175-yard breakout game. Any young rookie wide receiver in the league that has had a breakout game of over 150 yards or better, there are only 8 of them in the history, and he's number 8. Of course, we know Randy Moss is one, Odell Beckham Jr. is another, and everybody, all those other, Fitzgerald's another, all those other guys on that list are all either in the Hall of Fame or heading that direction. So I think Spielman lucked out on that one.
Small sample size, but let's get his jacket for Canton submitted already.
Yeah, that's right.
But one thing I want to add on this part of it. Okay, and I talked about how Cousins' post-game press conference annoyed me. Watch Jefferson's, and they're talking about, you went 7 catches, 181 yards, touchdown, and Jefferson sat right there and said, it doesn't really matter because we lost. The goal is to win. I want to hear that shit out of my quarterback, not my rookie. I'm glad I'm hearing it out of my rookie wide receiver, but that's what I want to hear out of my quarterback. Not, well, we scored 30 points and put up 400 yards. That should have been good enough. Just ran, off the soapbox on that, but,
Thielen said something similar earlier this week.
That's kind of how you want everybody to react when you got.
Absolutely.
You also want you want your head coach to go to his presser and say, first off, before I get into the details, this is on me. This loss is on me, and then continue on with talk about whatever you want.
No, we need to play better.
That's what a good head coach
he was
does.
obviously upset.
First, you lay it on yourself, so the players go, "Well, that's pretty cool. He's taking the bus. He's getting run over by the bus before he throws us under there, at least." I don't hear that.
Is it obvious though? I mean, you look at their body language and you hear them talk, and
it's terrible.
You see when they cut images of the sideline, and it's, I don't know, man. It's like they're getting ready to take a lunch break from their accounting firm. At least for
the
Cousins.
deal
I mean,
was, we were ahead most of that game.
Yeah, we snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. Like But.
Okay, but did they win though?
No, they didn't.
No, it came down to the last two drives.
That's what it comes down to. We didn't get the W. We got the L.
So
again.
But speaking of getting the L, we go against the Texans, and both teams, the Vikings and the Texans, have done outstanding getting the L's so far this season.
Well, the Texans are one team that their coaching and front office is probably more incompetent than ours is, because you got Bill O'Brien, who traded DeAndre Hopkins for a half-eaten jelly donut and David Johnson. One of the best wide receivers in the league for a washed-up running back and a cup of Gatorade, basically.
This might be the last hurrah for both these head coaches with these teams.
Yeah, and then next year we'll just switch and we'll get Bill O'Brien and they'll get Mike Zimmer and we'll keep on going.
It's going to be, I don't know, every week's an adventure now. I think, on paper we got a chance of winning this game, but, we've got still too many mistakes. Lots of mistakes.
This is a game we should win.
Oh.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
Oh,
well. Well lasted, I know.
You know what my dream for this show was?
What?
Since we're coming off the presidential debates last night, I wanted to have Ted Glover and Dave Stefano debate Mike Zimmer. That was my dream, but I know it's not going to happen, but I at least got to tell you how enjoyable that would have been.
We're not to that point. We'll get there, most likely, but we're not to that point yet.
Dave doesn't want no part of that shit. He's going to have to get a little bit of time for his notes to debate, to prepare for that Zimmer debate.
Now, speaking of which, though, since you brought him up, I'll bring him up.
All right.
There's 2 press conferences he's had this week. 3. There's one after the game, but then there's one Monday and there's one today. Now, Courtney Cronin today was talking about how we can quickly see things go into the finger-pointing realm like they did back in 2018 when, as Ryno said, you had your quarterback saying, "Hey, we did 300 some odd yards. We did our part," type of stuff. That you might get offense pointing fingers at defense, defense at offense, coaches at this, coaches at that, right, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Mike Zimmer had 2 press conferences. On the one on Monday, he said something that sent off a flag. In itself, it's innocuous, but it made me wonder. He was asked by one of the reporters with all the defensive injuries, and we have, we've documented that. There's 6 starters out and a backup out. Are you looking to bring somebody in, somebody of veteran presence, especially when we've got rookies and young guys on the outside that are absolutely doing poorly? And his response was, "I just try to coach the guys we have here. They," meaning the front office, "are always looking out for players." Right? And what keyed off of me was, they are always looking out for players. As in, I don't have a choice. They give me what I got, and I got to coach them. And he said, we're going to continue to try to make these guys better every week, and they have improved, which statistically they have. Now, that was the first comment, and it was that they wonder if he's pointing at Spielman. And then today he said Spielman told one of the reporters that Mike said blah, blah, blah to the team, And then Mike got sort of angry and said he shouldn't say what I say to the team. I'm wondering if there's a starting of a rift.
The schism.
A schism between the head coach and Rick Spielman.
You're just cluing into this now, Stefano?
Come on, man.
We've been there. Come on.
Hey, I'm a little slow.
Years.
It's Spielman's fault. That's what you're trying to say. It's Spielman's fault.
No, I'm not saying. Well, no. When it comes to finding offensive linemen, it's Spielman's fault.
And quarterbacks and various other positions on the team.
Again,
I just think, again, we're seeing the cumulative effects of 2 or 3 off seasons of
poor decisions,
roster depletion. I mean, that's what it is. It's roster depletion.
We're overpaying for guys that we shouldn't have, and it's catching up to us.
You know, some of it was missed draft picks, and every team does that. I don't get too wrapped around the axle about some draft picks, but you can go back and argue the draft philosophy of Rick Spielman. You know, trading down and trading down and trading down, and ending up with 9 or 10 guys when you could have had 6 guys of more quantity as opposed to quality. And now you've got 10 or 11 guys, and half the guys don't make their final 53. And
then he does it again, and then keeps doing it over. That's the thing that's not the head scratcher about it.
And
you know,
you did the contract extension with Cousins that you could have gotten out of and gotten pretty healthy with the cap next year, and you're not. And now you look at the cap is expected to probably shrink substantially because of the weirdness of this COVID-19 year. And I don't know, man. I mean, this feels, I mean, when you're 0-3, everything is amplified. When you don't, and when you look bad, when you're a bad 0-3, and the Vikings are, make no mistake, the Vikings are a bad 0-3. You guys were talking about moral victories and this and that in the Raw show. There's no moral victories in the NFL. They looked bad. They played bad. They just did. You could talk about the offense. If the offense is so good, they could have gotten 25 yards in a minute 44 and won the game.
They should have.
They did. The defense sucks. The defense flat out sucks, and that is all on Mike Zimmer. The offensive philosophy was brought in by Mike Zimmer, and it's being poorly executed by Gary Kubiak to the point where the Texans are one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. I wouldn't be surprised to see Dalvin Cook go for 4 yards, 3 yards, and then Kubiak called 35 straight passes. That's what I would. I bet we're going to see.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I don't think you could, in the long term. I don't think you could separate whatever Dave was just talking about. The Spielman and Zimmer together. They built this fucking thing together.
And Cousins is tied with
all the blame together. Both get blamed. It's blame together. There's no. Can't separate it because those are the 2 guys responsible for the whole thing. So to sit and try to minimize who's, you know.
Oh, my point was it's getting more public, or it looks like it is. There's warning flags that are going up that this is getting more public.
Yeah.
Which is a bad sign.
If Zimmer, the way the body language is and the fan base, the way everything is bubbling, the volcano. If he survives this season, from what I've seen over my 50 years of football, he'll be the first coach to survive this shit that I've ever seen survive it. Because when things get this bad, they don't survive it.
I can't. I think if they lose this Sunday, which I think they will, I mean, they just can't. They don't play well against very good quarterbacks. And Deshaun Watson doesn't have a lot around him, like you guys said. But there's less on the Vikings defense that can stop Deshaun Watson from completing passes and making plays.
Yeah, we're giving up 50, 60 yards to guys that nobody's ever heard of before.
Plus, they're on the road. We know how well the Vikings historically do on the road. With I mean, they went 4-4 last year, but that was kind of an anomaly. I don't know, man. This seems like it's starting to build. The pressure's building, like Drew said with the volcano, and if you're a defensive genius, and you have produced the 3 worst statistical games back to back to back in Minnesota Vikings history.
End of your
something's
career.
Yeah. Something's got to give, man. I mean, Les Steckel sat back last week, said, "I'm off the hook, baby. Not my
Not
show.
quite
Not
yet.
my record
Not
anymore."
quite yet.
Zimmer started off with the worst than Les Steckel. He started off with this worst start in Vikings history. So how am I supposed to pat that guy on the back? Am I supposed to blame the assistant coaches? I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, there was a stat I saw after the game or on Sunday. This Vikings team, the defense, has given up the most yards in 3 games in the history of the franchise.
Yep.
We're like at 1,320 yards or something like that. The previous record was like 1,312 back in 1985.
Like that includes the strike season where they played scab players.
Right.
The scab players weren't as
better
bad
than the guys that were paying millions of dollars on the defense.
Yes.
How do you as an owner not? I mean, doesn't Will kind of look like a horse's ass right now with the extensions? I mean, he can't be happy with what he's seeing.
He just drinks a lot of martinis.
I mean, and he may, and he's not, and he's probably not going to fire anybody mid-season because there's no point to that.
No, our boy Flip Mozzie says 0-5. He would expect Zimmer to be fired. That's what Flip said.
That's what Flip does. I don't expect Ziggy to.
Ordinarily, I would agree with that, but okay, you fire Zimmer. Who the hell are you going to put in there? You're going to promote?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Kubiak? What the hell better is it going to be with Kubiak running the show?
Doesn't matter.
And it may not even be Kubiak. Kubiak may say no.
I got
okay, Marlon Maloof. I don't know. Whoever.
Two words.
Marlon Maloof.
Adam Zimmer.
I feel much better now, Ted. Thanks a lot on that.
Now.
No, you're right though. If this keeps up like this bad, Zimmer's not going to last the season, and Spielman will follow him out the door at the end of the year.
I sure to hell hope so. I mean, if you get rid of one,
don't bet
you
on
almost
it.
Have to get rid of them both.
Well, you should get rid of them both, but don't bet on it before the end of the season because I don't see the.
You're the owner of this team, Ted. What can Mike Zimmer come in and tell you that's going to make you want to go with him for the next year?
At this point, not a lot. I mean, look, there's 13 games left, and they could, we think the defense will get better. I mean, they have good players. I mean, the guys they drafted to play had pretty good careers coming out of college. So you think at some point they'll get better. They just seem to be getting worse. I mean, I kind of expected a rough start. I mean, I did, but they seem to be regressing, and that is what's more on the defensive side of the ball, and that's what's more troubling than anything else. So right now, there's nothing anybody can say. Actions speak louder than words. So just do it. Coach them up and make them play better, or you'll be gone.
Let me pass along a little conversation I had with a Viking fan, and this is kind of telling to me. We were talking about all this that we're talking about now, and the person said to me, "Well, Drew, you got to understand, this is every other year is Zimmer's year." And I said, "Okay," and I mean that's what he was saying. How we go at the playoffs and we don't go, and the person I was talking to said, "Every other year we're making a run at it. That's pretty good." And I stopped for a second and I go, "That's the mindset problem right there. That's the fucking mindset problem. Every other year is good. Every year. It's supposed to be every fucking year. Not every other year."
We accept mediocrity as
when I was talking to him, he said, "Well, it's pretty good, Drew. You can't really expect it." No, I expect every fucking year. If you're okay with every other year, that's the problem.
150% agree.
Fuck.
Now, if you look at it, the defense has some very talented players. We have Hunter. We now have Ngakoue. We have Pierce on the front line, right? All we need is that 3 technique. Now, both Pierce and Hunter are out, and Ngakoue is getting overwhelmed except for a few pass rushes, and we knew he wasn't good against the run. It would be better almost if he moved as a pass rushing specialist and bounced around.
Ngakoue is like a Jared Allen, good against the pass, not so much.
Whoa.
We have Eric Kendricks, who's one of the best linebackers in the league.
Time out.
Anthony Barr's good.
Time out.
What?
Can't handle these smoke.
Yannick Ngakoue is a pass rush specialist. $12 million a year, you want to say he's just a pass rush specialist?
Yeah, that's what they get paid for.
Play him every down until he passes out.
Right, well, I agree. Play him, but but his skill is pass rushing versus run stopping. Linebackers, you have Eric Kendricks, who's one of the best in the league, and Anthony Barr, who's good, right, for the most part. Too solid.
Good for the most part, overpaid for what he is.
Right.
Where are we going with this?
We have Harrison Smith and we have Ant Harris as safeties. So there is talent there, but it's not all available right this second, which is causing problems. And I know you guys say, well, Zimmer should coach him up. Well, there's a talent level difference. You can only coach peewees to be so good. You can't coach them to win a Super Bowl. It takes time, and it takes God-given gifts for a lot of these players to meld together. They're looking real good. What you'll hear if you're listening to Vikings Twitter and all the Viking sphere of podcasts and radio and everything else is that they're setting up for 2021. The question is, will they make it that far? Because they don't have a lack of talent. There is talent there. It's not across the board, but there's a bunch of talent there. It's just
half the guys. Sorry, man. Go ahead. Finish.
It's just a bunch of it's missing right now, and you got young corners that this shit's new to them.
When the Vikings had so many injuries in 2016, primarily to their
offensive
starting quarterback, right off the bat, they still managed to go 5-0. You could argue that was that 5-game stretch was Mike Zimmer's opus in terms of getting the most out of his team. And you know what? One of the reasons they went 5-0 is because they made that trade for Sam Bradford, but they had a really solid bench until the offensive line got to the injuries where they had to sign dudes off the third row 2 hours before the games. What you're seeing today, again, I go back to roster and personnel decisions they've been making for 2 or 3 years. They've paid a lot of money to guys that probably don't deserve it, and that rippled down to them being able to sign good backup players, which they don't have. They don't have they don't have any depth on defense, and we're seeing that play out. Yeah. We're just seeing it play out, and there's nothing you can do. And you can say, well, that's not Zimmer's fault. Well, I would argue it is Zimmer's fault because he wanted his guys. He wanted Ev Griffin. He went to bat for Ev Griffin 2 or 3 times. He went to bat for Anthony Barr, and they came up with a lot of money for him. And I just, man, they have made their bed, and they're going to have to lay in it.
They'll have to lay in it. Yeah.
There is nobody to blame for the lack of depth and everything else other than 2 people, Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree.
Those guys are the ones that are making and
going.
Ted said it perfectly. I mean, we're spending all this money on tier 1, and then tier 2 through 5 or whatever, we're filling up with the 75 7th round picks that Spielman drafts. That guys that are journeymen at best most of the time, maybe role players. But now we've got those guys are playing significant roles because the guys we are paying the big money to, we've got 2 or 3 guys out. So we're putting somebody who isn't a starter, probably never should be a starter, starting.
Has to start.
Has to start.
Yeah.
Going back to what Dave just said about the Zimmer and coaching the Pee-wees, and he can't be expected to do all this. Well, you know what? That's why you have good positional coaches to lean on, like Jerry Gray.
Hey, I can't.
That's what you use your good position. But no, wait. We're going to let him go.
Zimmer has made a reputation for himself that he's difficult to work with for other coaches.
Well,
and that's Zimmer. That's Zimmer's fault.
He's a dick.
Yep.
That's Zimmer's fault.
I mean, that was like I was, watching some stuff today. They were talking about, okay, if the offense continues to flounder, whatever. It was actually on Purple Daily, and Courtney Cronin was on there, and they asked her, what is Kubiak going to be a scapegoat here before long? And she made the comment, he really can't be, because if that would be the 3rd offensive coordinator in 5 years to get let go during the season.
What does that tell you?
You start doing that, who's going to want to come work for us?
Right.
Under Zimmer? I mean, you had DiFilippo, which, okay, I still think that was a knee-jerk reaction. They hired him to try to figure out how the hell Philadelphia kicked our ass in the NFC Championship game. And they picked the only guy in the offense that didn't know how it happened. Then you had Norv Turner, who, him and Zimmer had been friends forever, and then all of a sudden they got in a pissing contest and Norv walked off. And now if Kubiak can't keep it right, that would be 3. I mean, you're basically going to be down to having, the assistant towel boy's second cousin coming in to be offensive coordinator because he can't find anybody else that's going to work with Zimmer,
You know what? He's the head coach. He's responsible. We could talk about this for a fucking week. Your head coach is responsible for your team. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
He puts the staff together.
Yes, he does. He's the head coach. You don't get all the praise and get absolved when things start going to shit. Things are in shit land.
You just say you just say we have to play better, and then everything's fine.
You need I don't want to hear injuries either. To head coach, things happen. You make your team. You find out a way. That's why you're the head coach, because you're supposed to be a step ahead of everybody else on figuring this shit out.
I'd argue they had more injuries in 2016, but they had a deeper bench, and they were in it until week 15 or 16 when the offensive line just
offensive
was
line
duct
went
taped to the
to
hailing wire.
What about
by
Zimmer
weeks
himself?
5 and 6 was going to shit.
He doesn't look like the same coach he was the first 3 years.
No,
He
he
looks
doesn't.
defeated.
No, he looks like he's been beat down and just tired of it all.
And sometimes that happens. That's not a rip on him.
The first couple 3 years, he was fiery. He was on the sidelines. He was back and forth. He was yelling. He was doing this other stuff. And now, you look at his stuff
theory.
now, and it's okay. Let's hear it, Dave.
Traditionally, in the Air Force, Ted and I know,
Oh, here we go.
an airman could be out.
Me and Ryno step out of the room.
No.
Since we don't know.
But this applies to everybody. An airman can go be outstanding, but as soon as he gets that main squeeze on the side, his performance usually takes a dip.
What is
So you're blaming Zimmer's supermodel girlfriend for the fact that we suck?
That's part of it. Now,
So it's
that
Spielman
may
and
be
the
his
woman.
attitude. I don't know. That's just a theory.
So we add that right under assistant coaches, players, Spielman. Let me add that to the Mike Zimmer.
Hot ass girlfriend.
The girlfriend.
We got to
Mike
remember,
Zimmer-
Spielman hired Zimmer. So, with that, any last words on the Houston Texans and this game, which we are 4.5 points underdogs? Drew?
See, in the Air Force, when you raise your hand, you get called on first. Jesus.
No, you do that. You do this, Drew.
I'm going back to the In the Raw show after the game with that team from Wisconsin. Flip Mozzie asked me, Drew, you saw that mess today. When do you think this team will get their first win? And I told Flip, I think it's a Texan game. So I'm going to roll with my initial that happened. That seemed like it was a year ago, didn't it? I mean, didn't that seem a long ass time ago?
It does.
But I'm going to go with what I told Flip and say this will be our first win. So I'm going to have to stick to my word there. I think we get the win. 27, 24, something tight. Both teams give up over 30, so it's going to be probably a shootout. But I think this is the week.
One of them's got to
coach
win.
to fuck it up besides Zimmer. It's got to be Bill O'Brien. So I'm giving us a shot this week. I think we get our first win.
Ryno?
I mean, I kind of agree with Drew on this one. I mean, for all the god awfulness and incompetence and stuff that we've had all season, and I've said this every show that we've done this year. One of these days, these guys are going to come out and play with some goddamn pride and say, "Hey, we're professionals. We've been embarrassing ourselves all goddamn season. We're a team. We're supposed to be here. We are professional players. Let's freaking act like it." And like Drew said, there's probably 2, maybe 3 organizations in the NFL that are more incompetently run than we are, and the Houston Texans are one of them. So, I mean, if we're going to get a win in this stretch up until the bye week, I think it's this game. So, and Kirk said 30 points and 400 yards is enough, but I think we're going to have to get like 33 this week, so I'm going to say 33-27. We eke out a win, and the ship kind of ballasts itself for another week before it completely dives underneath the water. But
there we go. 2 wins. 2-0.
Ted?
I feel like Aragorn riding the horse saying, "Not this day." 38-28 Texans. I just this team is a dysfunctional mess. They just are.
Oh, I'm not going to disagree with that at all.
I don't think they have the capability to stop Deshaun Watson. I just you look at him as a playmaker. He's probably one of the 2 or 3 best individual playmakers in the NFL, and the Vikings do not have a pass rush. They do not have a secondary that can cover. And I think he is going to chew up the Vikings and spit them out. I think the Vikes will probably keep it close through halftime, and then they'll do something stupid. It'll be a dumb turnover. I mean, it's the script has been played out three times so far this year. They're gonna commit a dumb turnover, and it's gonna give the Texans a 2-score lead, and they're gonna start playing catch up, and it's gonna get worse, and they're gonna lose, and they're gonna get steamrolled in the second half. They just are. And Mike Zimmer will come in and say, "Well, we just need to play better. We need to play better fast."
Well, I hope to see a little bit of Irv Smith Jr. He's been missing this season.
Who?
Irv Smith Jr.
What? Second round pick? Oh,
Yeah.
he's still developing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well,
He's
wait.
been
we
missing.
can't rush this stuff, Drew.
And I hope to see the game on time. As most fans know, there's the COVID scare. Some Tennessee players tested positive. It was their nose tackle and their long snapper. There was a third one, but they didn't play. So they're testing. Vikings still haven't practiced except for virtually. But
What is that?
hopefully it's on
Dave,
time.
we're all listening to you. What were you saying?
Yeah, you're all showing that helmet and that
December
T-shirt.
12th, we're going to whip your ass, just like we have been doing.
Sure.
Hey, Mike.
Anyways,
I do the Zimmer with the Wolverines, don't I? I like our chances. Yeah.
everybody, have a great week. Have a better weekend. Enjoy your favorite beverage. If you're out in the woods hunting, because it's hunting season, be safe. And as always, Skol Vikings! Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skol, everybody.